Today's guest is going to be jewelry designer, Personage. Hi.
My name is Alison, Ungaro, 𝗩𝗚𝗡, I am the creative director and owner of Personage, and I've been making jewelry since I was 16. Personage is a storytelling brand about historically marginalized communities, and I made it to empower our voices and to help our stories become more well-known.
What was the inspiration behind launching your brand, Personage?
So I worked in the Diamond District and I worked in retail stores across the US, and I noticed that anytime I had POC customers, or when I was speaking to my mentor, who wasn't my mentor at the time, Copeland, it was always the same issue that Black voices weren't amplified, Latinx voices weren't amplified, Asian voices weren't amplified. The first collection, 𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗧, was meant to celebrate women of color specifically, because I think in the liberation movement, amplifying to dismantle the patriarchy is one of the most important ways that we'll be free, as well as obviously tackling race. And we also need, and when I talk about women, I include trans women in that narrative as well. Yeah. And I think these are issues that we need to talk about alongside other aspects of the liberation movement. For example, the largest mine in South America was in Peru, and during Fujimori's presidency, a United States mine company and a French mine company basically paid someone in Fujimori's government to give them access to the mine. So they kicked out everyone else, and then they basically polluted the area around them. Like, I've been bullied for a lot of my identities. I felt unsafe for a lot of my identities. And now that I'm older and I'm more conscious of boundaries, I feel that I use my identities to empower myself and to empower the people around me. In the long run, I want to also start selling from other people of color artists. That's one of my long-term goals.
Okay.
So I think the goal right now is to build up the business slowly, and then as I get bigger, I want to help other artists, POC owned businesses, and also to tell more POC stories. Permanent collection, it's interviews from different women of color who are in different fields, because I think, as well as telling histories of different POC communities, I also want to amplify individual voices, because individual narratives are also just as important as the collective, but I think it's important to have them both combined. Jewelry is definitely a healing practice for me. In Trujillo, that's where my family is from, jewelry was a way to celebrate different cultures, to celebrate the sun, the moon, the water. And I really feel that when I'm making jewelry, I'm really tapping into my ancestry. Like, these were hand painted, these have Peruvian opals. There's just so much labor and so much care that goes into making jewelry that I really feel that like something spiritual when I'm making it. I've definitely experienced it a lot in my family and at my boarding school, especially in machismoism. It's a very big problem. Unfortunately, my uncles are pretty violent when it comes to LGBTQ. And in boarding school and high school, I used to like show guys like, oh, do you think she's pretty? But what I really meant was, I think she's pretty, but this is how I hide my queerness and validate it, by talking to y'all about it. And then they obviously caught on, and like they started calling me lesbian, but like in a derogatory way. So I think I've come into terms that, like, unfortunately, like, it's men either fetishize that you're queer, or they will stigmatize you. And I really hope that it'll change. I've been threatened, like, people have threatened to hit me because they found out that I was queer. And it's hard. Like, I've been tackling like how to handle trauma in the body by massaging or doing yoga. Or massaging is so therapeutic, and I think it's so important to also recognize that trauma lives in the body. I have a lot of privileges, and I also have experienced a lot of discrimination, so I live in between the two of trying to use my privilege to amplify the voices of those who I feel are more discriminated than I am. So I recently just posted to my college and high school about my experiences, and also of the experiences that I witnessed for the Black community while I was at those institutions, and I'm personally demanding that they owe my fellow Black classmates reparations. So I really want them to send my fellow ex-Black classmates coins, and I really think these institutions owe the Black community a lot. All these institutions are really traumatizing, and I don't think they recognize that so many people have to deal with imposter syndrome after. And I want Personage to be a part of that too, but I'm still such a small business also to call out the institutions we've been a part of and hope that they can try to change and they can be a lead to make change for the Black Lives Matter. There's so many things that we can tackle about this, but I think first, cultural appropriation. I think a lot of our cultures have been lost after colonization. A lot of our works have been put in museums, and I remember when I went to the Louvre, I was so pissed off because I went to the Africa, Asia, and South America and department, and there were no descriptions Vorachon for any of the pieces. I was so pissed. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You're like,
the Louvre? Oh my god.
You have so much money. And they didn't have any descriptions. So I think our history's been lost is one. That's right. So then after you take into account that our history has been lost, then the second part is cultural appropriation, is that now that we don't know our own history and you don't even know our fucking history because you don't write about it and you've burned all our articles, now you're going to take it and say, this is so cute, let me wear it to Coachella. Thank goodness Coachella didn't happen. I didn't need to see that this year. That was that cleansed my soul. So I think the fact that we don't know about our history, then cultural appropriation. I remember when I went to Peru and I went to Morocco, what I noticed is that people were so obsessed with bargaining. And I was like, why can't they hand make this? And you think just because you're in a different country that's not Western, it's supposed to be cheaper? No.
Your first flash round is, what comes to your mind when you see defund the police?
Abolish. That is what I can think. So defund freaks me out because I'm really fucking scared that people are going to be like, and by people, I mean the fucking government, they're going to be like, oops, we just took out $1 million. No, we don't want you to just take out $1 million of a $1 billion budget. We want it gone. Abolish. And also abolish the cop from your brain. The cop from your brain is the person who's telling you can't do it. That's the person who thinks that you don't need community. Abolish the cop from your brain. So.
Key jewelry pieces everyone must have. This is something lighter, okay?
Hoops. It could be baby hoops or big hoops, but hoops for sure. Because hoops is something you can wear without makeup and you can look fabulous. I mean, not saying you need to wear makeup to look fabulous, but if you want a no makeup look. And then I think a little choker or something that's a little closer to your neck, and some simple gold jewelry, things that you can stack. And then also I'm not wearing any, but rings, I think. A statement ring is also really fun. And then also little rings that you can stack. So part of the reason I started Personage, because I saw so many people. I hope.
Go get your clothes. Come on. We're going to go get some.
You were enjoying the ice cream truck in the back.
I know.
I saw so many brands that were inspired by different cultures. One of the collections I'm going to be talking about different Fulani hoops, and I remember I was talking to my therapist and I was showing her other brands and she's like, wait, she's dead ass selling Fulani hoops without giving context. And I was like, and she's like, this is a white woman, isn't it? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I'm glad it's called an homage to hoops. I was like, yes, because I'm celebrating people's stories. I'm not trying to steal it. And and I think that's the important part. Homage to hoops is really about celebration and not just only profiting. So those first two earrings are from our intro collection, and the intro collection was more about my experiences. So the first earring you see is called the puta hoops, and it's about changing. Language is really important in the liberation movement. I think a lot of pieces of words have been used to stigmatize us and have been used to make us feel inferior. I want to embrace the word puta to show that it's okay to be sexual, because it has two meanings. It either means hoe or prostitute, and there's nothing wrong with either of those two.
That's me. I'm a hoe and a prostitute. I'm kidding. Here. Tell us the story about the pieces, what's going on in this shoot.
So this video is still in production. I think it'll probably come out more. I'm not sure. I'm not going to give a date. But so this was from our recent mini collection, the India collection. And Shakti is powerful women, and we wanted to use that word because we wanted to, and Anath normally historically has been used for Indian women to wear to symbolize that they're married. So we wanted to embrace the fact that women are powerful, and their voices deserve to be heard in India, and as well as embracing it with something that historically was used to put them in a marriage, to say that, no, we can wear this to show that we're liberated. It doesn't have to only be associated to the patriarchy, to men. So it combines both of those two ideas. And model's Anicia. My mentors were really essential, though, to Personage, because my mentors are named 𝗑𝗦𝗡𝗧𝗏 and 𝗑𝗏𝗡𝗧. I met them in the Diamond District. Copeland, when we worked together, he told me that the jewelry industry lacked POC voices, and when I told him about Personage, he really wanted to help me start it. So he gifted me like $1,000 worth of materials. He gifted me that desk. I remember I was telling him about like Black-owned jewelry brands, and he was like, I didn't think I was gonna live to see the day where I would see like Black people and like being leaders in this industry. So that was really, he just loves that we want to amplify like POC, Black, Indigenous voices.
So you have experience with metal making too, and molding the metal into pieces.
Yes, yeah. So I've done casting, I've done fabrication. Fabrication's like what you see right there.
Yes.
I do beading, I do patina work, I do my own gold plating. So I've experimented with different parts of jewelry, and I incorporate it in my work. And I really do want Juneteenth to be like a national holiday. But I'm just worried that what happened with Pride, like, as you know, like Pride became very corporate, and it was a way for brands to just market. And I just don't want that to happen. And that hurt my feelings. I bet it hurt yours too. I just think performativity has been a lot on my brain, especially having a business. It's something I think about a lot. The different ways you can be authentic, and the different ways that we can make sure we stick to our missions. And I think the fact that I'm even conscious of it is a good thing. So 𝗑𝘌, I used to work for him. He's one of my favorite Black-owned jewelry brands. He's about spreading the Black diaspora. And then I really like 𝗑𝗢𝗎𝗧𝗏. She hand makes everything. She normally does lives where she's like hand making stuff. It's so fun to join in, and she's so cool. She like gives tips too, like, oh, these are some cool things I do. So she's one of my favorites. There's so many good ones I could like put on my story. Well, I worked for the Hillary Clinton campaign, and that was very exhausting for my soul. I think what pissed me off about politics, because I also worked for Senator Gillibrand, I worked in immigration, and it also made me go into jewelry instead, is you see how like there's so much. So for example, in immigration, a case that really stood out to me was, like, I have an uncle who's been asking for his visa for like 25 years. And when my grandpa died, who was the person in charge of the visa, the petition ended. But meanwhile, so then we had to redo the whole thing. Like, we had to get my grandma's citizenship, redo the whole petition. Whereas when I was working for Gillibrand in the immigration department, there was this guy from Canada, and he had gotten deported, and they still let him come back for his daughter's graduation. But the law says that if you get deported, you are not allowed back in the country. So you see the white privilege in immigration too. And that's the fucked up part. Like, and for example, I had a cousin who was applying to work at Disney, because Disney likes to do like a lot of jobs for immigrants. And they didn't want to give him any of the front-facing client jobs because he was from Peru. He said, we only save those jobs for European people.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And and I think working in politics, I could see that firsthand, and then seeing what my family was going through. And I was like, this is not the way to do change. Like, politics is you're so ingrained in the system. So I wanted to start my own business, amplify it. And I wanted to be able to speak about these things, because I think when you're in politics, you're like so restrained. Like, you can't talk about these things. I think definitely address your traumas, address the things you've been through, and it's real. Like, no matter what people say, everything you've been through is real. And I think just keep working hard, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Even if you don't feel like you're ready, like, there's no such thing as being ready. You'll learn more, because you'll see, because I've made a lot of mistakes having a business, and I also have wins, but I think it's also important to recognize that you're able. If someone with your identity has done it, you can do it too.
And thank you for your time, Alison of Personage.
This is my personal account, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and then Personage's handles Personage NYC.
Thank you all. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for your time.
Continue to celebrate Pride. Continue to celebrate freedom and liberation.